AGC of America webinar, Laying the Right Foundation for Profitability. My name is John Ross, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator at AGC of America in Arlington, Virginia. Before we begin our presentation, I have a few brief announcements. If you have any questions for today's presenters, on your screen on the GoToWebinar toolbar, you should see the questions box. Please use this area to submit your questions as they occur to you, but do be aware that we will be holding off today answering questions until today's presenters have finished their presentation. Also, everybody who is in attendance will be muted except for the speakers for the duration of the webinar. Everyone who is registered for today's webinar will receive an email within the next 3 to 5 business days containing a link to access the audio recording and a PDF PowerPoint of the presentation. I'd like to introduce today's presenters. Tim Tucker, Director of Professional Services at Dynamic 365 Business Central, and Mike Lumo, I apologize for stuttering there, Enterprise Sales Executive at Sikich. Tim, Mike, I'll hand it off to you.
Hey, everybody. And Mike, you are muted.
Yeah, I am muted. There you go. First rule of webinars, unmute yourself. Hi, Tim. Good to see you again. And
hi, Mike.
So welcome everybody to the webinar. You can see the title, Laying the Right Foundation for Profitability. And we're just going to jump right into it. And the first couple of slides are going to talk about who we are, and then we'll get into the purpose of today's presentation. So without further ado, let's see if I see the links on there. There you go. Where are the slide? All right. So once again, we're going to talk a little bit about the stating industry, and it won't be a surprise to you, but it'll be in the context of what we're going to cover today, which is really the technology trends that we're seeing, where people have been headed in terms of software use in the construction management industry, and then what are they starting to use now and why, and especially why we're all here to better manage jobs, to improve profitability, to make decisions before it's too late, and try to get rid of the manual effort that you see everywhere. People passing stuff from person to person on paper rather than electronic means. And then at the end of that thing, how do you know what to choose as the right foundation for your business in terms of software applications? Okay. So who we are. This is, as we had a brief introduction. So Tim and I work for a company called Sikich, and we'll go into who that is, but they're a Microsoft reseller. And within that group, we have specialists that perform different software feats, implementations. So Tim Tucker is Director of Professional Services. These are all the technical resources that get involved with designing and implementing a software solution for the industry. And he's, prior to working for us, he worked at a major home builder running that IT project out there. But Tim, you want to say hi?
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. Hope I can contribute something useful. But yes, I do have quite a bit of experience in the industry, and not just the home builder industry, but general construction as well. So it's part of what I bring to the table at Sikich for our clients.
Perfect. And then myself, I'm a senior account executive. Spent the last 14 years focusing on ERP, CRM, business application solutions for clients. And I'm based out of Phoenix now, formerly from California. Tim's out in California. And I focus on the construction industry for the last, for a few years now. All right. Let's get the click on there. I didn't realize I can do that with my arrow thing. All right, so who we are, Sikich. So Sikich started as a CPA firm about 37 years ago in Chicago. And then as they started growing, their customers were saying, what software should we use? And they kind of have, we're half accounting, tax advisory, we're half technology. And about 1,000 people, about 15,000 clients. And we handle stuff on both in accounting and technology. Tim and I are in the technology division, which does, ERP, CRM software, cloud, hosting, cybersecurity, different things like that. We can provide a lot of service to our customers, but specifically, Tim and I are involved in taking a customer's business requirements and try to figure out how to implement that through business software. And I think it's working, but let's see if the click is not clicking when used to. There you go. Okay, and just who we are a little bit. We do Microsoft, we do NetSuite, we do Salesforce. So a lot of those you might be familiar with. You either use Salesforce as CRM or NetSuite as an ERP, or you've heard about these different things. And on both the accounting side and technology side, we've gotten quite a few awards. One of them is, let's see if I'm clicking this right. Let's see, is that we were voted in the top 10 best ERP implementers in North America in 2020. So we should have some good tips on business application implementation software on that.
I might add that on that slide, it said, one of 21 managed partners, Microsoft managed partners. Microsoft actually recently scaled down that list. So now there's 7 managed partners with Microsoft, and we're one of those nationally. So it's a pretty prestigious thing with Microsoft.
Yeah, which helps on alignment of roadmap items, as well as they count on us for feedback from the customer base on product improvements. So it's a good point, Tim, that that connection is so vital. Within Sikich, we have about 560 clients we handle in different vertical solutions, and those won't be surprised to see what some of those verticals are. Let's see, for the next slide, it has on there. Of course, most people here expect to be the GC space, but also we serve people that are either commercial builders or specialty contractors. Get a lot of those guys that have both an installation, project, labor, resource planning side, and a service side, sometimes after installation, as well as civil construction and other projects like that. We tend to hit a kind of a wide range there. And just a level deeper, we can handle it on the accounting, tax, and audit side, as well as technology side. We constantly talk to their side of the house, because as you all know, there's changes and that stuff, whether it's the, what's the prevailing wage roll-ups and the tax implications of things too. Just the way that you recognize revenue in the construction project, it's nice to have accounting side of the house to help us with that as well. Tim and I are not accountants.
No.
Probably a good thing. So state of this industry. So it's no surprise. We're not sure where some of you are in the spectrum in terms of small, medium, large, in terms of GC and your firm. But as you know, most of the small businesses, they don't fare too well when they're starting off for different reasons. They don't pull the jobs in. They don't have the sales front end that's landing stuff in the first place. It manages the labor and resources poorly, or the cash. Sometimes it's natural disasters, who knows, but a lot of reasons. But as we all know, the margins have been shrinking the last couple of years, especially. And when lumber costs go up and those kind of things, you're getting squeezed both ways, from what you're trying to quote on a job to win and the costs on that. And as you can see there, basically half the projects are using up in a loss. And the trick is, how do you take the time to manage that stuff properly, and what tools do you use to do that? So there's that trade-off of the time it takes to set up systems and having the right people know how to use that, and then what does it cost you, and how does that eat out of your profitability in the overall bottom line of your company and your jobs on that. So see if any of these are you, and if it is, obviously something in the chat window. We have our stuff in different systems right there, but they're not integrated. So there's double entry. The guys clock in and over here on a clock system. Someone's punching that into the payroll system or the accounting system, or you've got your project tracking stuff over here, but someone's going to Excel to figure out the WIP, and there's all those tasks in between, right? And for that purpose, how often do you do your WIP reports? Is it sometimes you're stuck with what the subs are giving you in terms of invoices and all the other things, but how often are you doing that? The famous one is, I don't know if sometimes if I turn a profit till the job's done, or some guys do it monthly and it's too late to make effective decisions. My favorite one was one of our customers. They had a construction trailer on the site, and everybody just threw stuff in an in-basket, and the poor clerk had to type everything on the system, so you got errors on that kind of a thing. And then another one that, sales are growing, but you want to keep your construction office staff at the same size. How do you do that unless you give them tools to do it? And the last thing is, you probably heard a lot about ransomware attacks out there in different industries. And it's becoming more prevalent of people that, yeah, they're good at construction and they've got maybe an IT guy that understands how to set up their computers. That's really different than cybersecurity precautions and defense mechanisms. And when you start having people on mobile phones and doing different things and coming in from home and all that different stuff, how do you prevent ransomware and different attacks from happening? So that all that's, go ahead, Tim.
I was gonna say, I think everybody realizes that that's a very real risk now with what just happened with the pipeline shutdown, right?
Yeah.
It is with outdated systems. It's a very serious risk.
Yeah, it's true. And you know, half the time, it used to be in the old days, you could, if you paid that ransom, you got your data back. And now it's sometimes 50-50 chance, you know.
Right.
So it's something to definitely be aware about, like Tim said, that it's coming down the pike more and more, and protections on that. So when you look at your business and stuff, and see if any of these apply to you, and I'll have Tim add some color to this too, but you know, it's a classic thing, right? You know, are there unnecessary costs? You know, oh God, we didn't plan things well. We had to buy from a supplier we don't normally use, and it increased our cost, or we had to pay extra freight, get something in last minute. You know, poor planning resulting in last minute emergencies. You know, training constraints, right? It's like you get new software, but nobody ever learns it, and it just it's an expensive, you know, paperweight basically that no one's using. So how do you find time to train your guys while you're trying to keep them busy on the job and keep that that productivity out there? Disorganization it's kind of the nature of the game for some of the construction projects. To the untrained eye, it seems like this is organized because there are lots of moving parts. But a lot of you guys have been doing this for a long time. You know how to put those pieces in. It's just, how do we do it so everybody that's working with me is also in that same level of organization? What, do you do it with tools? Do you do it with people, or both? Job costing and inaccuracy, that's probably everybody's pet peeve. So you know what the accountants want? The accountants want data on their side so they can do their balance sheets and income statements, and they're tracking that kind of stuff. And you know what you need is it to running a job in terms of the tasks you have to do and the people and that kind of stuff. And there's that play between both sides. But if the data is inaccurate, you're making bad decisions on that data, and that turns into blind spots. It's like, if you can't see it, how you can make a decision? You know, the famous thing, if you're doing like estimated value management on construction and you have your final budgeted costs that you're looking at, but you don't really have the percentage completion correct on this thing, well, your numbers are wrong. You know, and then of course there's mishaps. You know, you just make a mistake, and you know, you're not using a template for your jobs. It takes all the line items on there that brings that out. But Tim, what else would you say on this that usually comes up that rears its ugly head?
Well, one of the things that's related to training constraints is the flip side of that is talent acquisition. What our clients are telling us, who are coming off of antiquated or old systems, is that when they get fresh blood, or they're trying to recruit younger generations or people out of college that are specializing in construction management degrees, and they show them some of the antiquated systems, it's actually a dissatisfier for why people would want to go work for you when they don't feel like they have modern tools to do the job that they would like to do. And so that, you know, that's the other side of training constraints. It's the supply of new fresh talent coming into the market without the right tools can be a serious dissatisfier.
Yeah, especially, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Younger people are raised on smartphones and tablets and icons, and you're attracting that people to the workforce. They're used to those tools already. They don't want to see a green screen, you know, thing with a menu. They don't even know what that was. So it's a fair point, Tim. So moving on this. So what are the things that, when you're looking at construction software, what's it supposed to help you with? I mean, you know how to do what you do in concept, but it really should give you these 4 pillars on that in terms of profitability. You know, are all the metrics in there and all the tools and the reporting mechanisms and the processes in there to make sure that the accountants are happy, the contractor side, that you're tracking project, you know, budget to actuals and all your costs and roll up on that. And then you can grow. If you put those systems in the right way, you should be able to take on additional projects because you've already figured out how to do it successfully. And then productivity, it's just today's world. I mean, the pandemic exposed the fact that a lot more people are working from home. You see, Tim and I were working from home and not in our normal office. And that means you need tools that let you do that. So you can't have an IT staff that's installing stuff on computers. And, you know, you need a software that's agile and lets people approve stuff either on a smartphone or do different things. And they have to be able to collaborate. You know, if you're not going to be face to face, then you need a tool. You know, a lot of guys are using Teams and stuff like that now to do things. You need something to collaborate with. Mitigate risk. You know, we're not just talking lien waivers and the certificates of insurance that you have to have on your subs and the guys in the job. It is important to track, you know, but we're also talking about what is your exposure point either on contracts or on the project itself, and how you and just what you need to be compliant in that. You know, like I said, whether it's union or prevailing wage or different things like that outside of the house, or if it's a government contract and what they're expecting on that. Software should make that easier for you and not have you do everything in Word and Excel by hand at the end. And the last thing is just visibility in terms of how much is something real time. You know, we hear guys say, well, at the end of the month, we put all our data in and we look at it. Well, it's too late to make a correcting decision by then. And then, of course, who in the organization can see different things? Are your project managers, can they see each other's data? Are the foremen see everything? Are the different people seeing what they need to do? And is your software just reactionary, or is it maybe preemptive? Like it's prompting you to do stuff like, hey, a year ago you had this, or that kind of a thing. You know, nowadays software uses artificial intelligence to kind of give you a hint on what you should be doing. And Tim, what would you say to augment this at all in terms of what you've seen in some areas?
Well, one of the key things about the visibility of the information is a unified view of the data and information. One of the previous slides, one of the questions was, do you have data in different systems, you know, disparate systems? So you know, you may have the tools to you know, make yourself more productive or give you the information you need, but unless there's a way to see it across the organization from all of your jobs, you know, all of the different data points, whether it's the service side, the production side, the accounting side, et cetera, in a unified manner, you really don't get the visibility that you need. It's very important.
Yeah, very valid. And we're not just talking the ability to integrate those systems. We're talking about the way to actually see that in a way that someone can digest, you know, and analyze. So it's a very valid point. So the areas that we focus on and where they usually happen. Okay, so there is a way, believe it or not, to increase those margins, but you have to hit these 9 points, right? So sales on the front end, what are you doing to track your leads? Now, usually lead tracking and pipeline management, that's the jurisdiction of CRM, you know, customer relationship management software, you know, and if you're big enough to have separate sales guys that just do that, you know, are they just tracking leads? Are they doing initial quotes and estimates out of CRM? Or is it in the ERP, the actual base software itself? Are you using Excel to kind of figure out some rough numbers for guys to kind of get them talking? Or is it in the accounting system? And the same thing with job costs. You know, it's like, well, that's really the province of the ERP, but where does that data live? And is the system have the details of a project and all the the planning lines and all the sub jobs and stuff in it? And it's also a collaborative tool that lets you actually schedule. So on one side, it's analysis and keeping track and financial report, but does it let you schedule and roll up resources and do planning as well? The liability on the financial side, of course, a good ERP or accounting system. But then, you know, some of the construction stuff, it's not, you don't find in normal ERPs, or like I said, it's insurance certificates and tracking the stuff you need on that. It can be an ERP if it's got that capability inside of it. Cash flow, looking at what's coming in based on, are you a percentage of completion type person? Are you milestone payments? You know, looking ahead at that, what does that look like in terms of future revenue coming in? And is any of that at risk or jeopardy? You know, it's just the way it works. You get rain delays and lumber delays and supply chain delays, and you know, you can't get fuel because all the gas stations in the east are shut down. And so, you know, how does that affect your cash flow? Contracts in terms of, what are you using for the actual thing that they sign? Are they just doing ink on paper? Are you using something like DocuSign to do that? And then how does that information of the project flow into your ERP system so that you're ensuring compliance and that, you know, the milestones or the billing method and the different things are what they should. You know, and of course, equity is important from a partnership investment type of perspective, but also just knowing what you have as horsepower to invest in the future. That's going to come from your ERP. The famous thing of overhead, what do you do with that? How is that assigned? Is it distributed across projects, and how you cost that? You know, there's a project management side to that, of course, and just the accountant side. And ultimately profitability. So everything that we're talking about is, if it's real time in there and everything's rolled up and there's a system to easily get that data as much as possible into the system as real time as possible, then you're seeing your profitability trends and your things ahead of them happening to make some corrective things, which leads to receivables. You know, are we billing the guys? I mean, there's one guy who was forgetting to bill the guys because they didn't have a good process for really realizing when milestones were done. And the cash flow was at risk because they just weren't doing the stuff that they needed to. And Tim, what else jumps out when you look at this slide?
Well, related to what we talked about on the previous one, the visibility of all of this information, you know, having the ability, if you're going to use different systems or if you're going to use a unified system, in any case, the visibility into the numbers and the data that's in the system that manages each of these different subject areas or results in the data, you know, for the profitability of their jobs. That visibility is very important.
Yeah, it's a great point. The ability to see this stuff clearly and not just an Excel sheet that you can't read is part of the problem there. So let's look at technology trends, and some of this will ring true and some may be new information to you. So what have people been using? I mean, look, when you first started out, you might have been using QuickBooks and Excel, and we see it a day. We get calls all the time from people that said, hey, we've gotten to this point, you know, but it can't really do what we need to do. And, you know, if you're using QuickBooks, it's not a construction thing. You're trying to figure out ways to do what you need to do and track all that stuff anyways. It's a starting point. As you all know, there's construction vertical solutions. Sage 300, CRE, which used to be called Timberline, I believe. And a lot of people are using that. Procore, we know a lot of people are using that. Viewpoint Vista, those are things we see out there because they were created specifically for the construction industry. And as we'll talk about later, they're good at that part, but sometimes they're lacking in the back end, as you can see on the right. The accounting may not be where it should be, or the business intelligence tools and reporting tools aren't there because they start off with the functionality first, not the back end structure. There's also contractor specific, may not apply to many of you guys on this call today, but like, you know, field edge and different stuff for, you know, roofers or HVAC or guys to deliver heating oil or different things or do subs on stuff. And of course, production home builders, you know, MyTech Cova, any of the MyTech products or some of the constellations like Newstar, JD Edwards, a lot of production guys, of course, use that space. And they're, you know, some of them have different price points based on their capabilities. But what we're starting to see is a lot of these types of solutions may fit part of the equation, but they don't fit the whole equation. And they may not be able to integrate easily to something, or they don't have the back end. And Tim, we're starting to hear it from our customers that are using that ones. They're reaching out to us saying, hey, I really like this, but it doesn't have that. Are you seeing that too, Tim, lately?
You see a lot of siloed type of examples where, you know, not to call out or pick on anybody in particular, but there are certain things, certain industry specific solutions that do that specific function really well, but then they don't do, for example, you know, the back end job cost well, or they don't do, you know, the billing well, or they don't do, you know, the end of the day accounting well. There's lots of examples, and so people are starting to look at, you know, how do I have a more unified, how do I have a more integrated, a more comprehensive solution. The other thing that you see a lot of is, you know, when people start out using something like a QuickBooks, when you grow to a certain size, it starts to kind of burst at the seams. A solution like that is made for small companies. It's great for that. But when you get to a certain scale and volume, it just can't grow with your company. So a lot of our clients are come to us where they're at that level where they're looking for future growth, or they already have future growth, and they're asking for, you know, what should I be on? What should I be looking to? And the other thing that we're seeing is related to what just happened last year with the pandemic. Back to that, how do I access this system from anywhere?
Right.
I don't have the technology in place to be able to access it. I mean, the home is one thing, but what makes you think it has to be at home? Why can't it be on the job site or wherever you're at, right?
Yeah, and to that point, offline capability. You know, sometimes you have no cell signal on the job site, or there's no Wi-Fi down, and the ability to get that information offline mode and other things. That's a very good point on that. So the main trend we've been seeing, and part as a result of nobody can really afford IT staff, you know, or they're trying to keep that cost down, is moving to the cloud. And what's the cloud? The cloud is a computer somewhere else, really. And,
Right.
you know, in the Microsoft terms, it looks like a football field, football stadiums. It's like Texas Stadium full of servers and racks as far as you can see. That not only is it the hardware, but it's the software that makes that secure and backs it up automatically. If someone drops a bomb on that whole data center, that stuff's already been backed up in a different geographical location automatically behind the scenes. So you're not just putting the data somewhere. It's all the protection mechanisms. It's the automatic way that it can adjust when production loads come onto it. And so that cloud, when you hear about that, you know, there's Amazon cloud, there's Microsoft cloud, there's all these different clouds out there. There are different platforms in addition to the hardware that when you put an application on there, the way that it works and the way people access it is different. So they're doing that basically because if you put something in the cloud, you're really saying that someone else is going to keep the basic part of that running and updated and that kind of stuff, and that it's updated more frequently. If you've ever used an old software system and you never updated it, you know what I mean. And part of that you didn't know how, it was going to be a cost or whatever, or a hassle. Keeping current is really huge, especially when construction industry terms are changing. Accounting things are changing. You want to be up to speed on that. Maintenance costs, right? You don't want to babysit a server. You want to pay for a piece of equipment on site, you know, or whatever that is. And maybe you have an IT guy that you use for certain things, but you don't want to have a full-time IT guy. And then the last thing is, you know, the security. It's really huge. Like Tim was saying, the pipeline thing, it's like that was an on-premise server. It was Exchange server that was attacked. It wasn't a cloud server. Yeah, it wasn't a cloud server that was attacked. And we're seeing this with our customers. We're moving them to the cloud. Those things are fine, but their existing on-prem stuff are still at risk. You know, and we see that.
And in that pipeline example, it was you know, it was an email Exchange server that Microsoft had publicly said to everybody that's using it, this is a security risk. You need to get rid of it or patch it, and you know, people ignored it. The same thing happens with your ERP systems, with your accounting systems, your other on-prem solutions. So this is why this trend of moving to a cloud is particularly attractive to a lot of people. It's the security and the maintenance and the patching is somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
And if it's a good technology provider, you know, somebody with a solid backing and financial backing, I should say, you know, it'll just be handled for you.
Yeah, there's something about, you know, you have enough stress as it is on the job with what you're trying to do, and not having to worry about the application is huge. To remove that sort of babysitting need, it's a good point, Tim. Who needs another headache? Another trend we're seeing is an industry solution software out there for construction or whatever, but then a modern back-end ERP. So, you know, typical things, guys, you know, one side of the coin has to have your CAD software doing the drawings and doing the estimating, the stuff that people really like using and have used for years, it just works perfect for what they do. There's really no need to change off of that functionality if it's working. But as we've talked before, the back-end accounting piece and as Tim said, some of the job costing, you know, it just isn't there like they need it. So what we're doing is we're integrating a really powerful ERP to a system like that, and using modern integration techniques to make sure that data is as real time as possible. And then you can use tools like Power BI that Microsoft has and different things to get the analytics that you out. So you get both sides of the house happy. People that use the software on a day-to-day basis don't have to change, and it does what it does best. It's a little best-of-breed approach. I mean, the accountants in the back end are happy because they're getting what they need. You know, makes a big difference, right, Tim?
Yeah, another good example, industry solution example would be in the home building space, builder information management systems. Those are specialty types of systems that you're not going to find in any type of ERP application, right. And they are very good at what they do. So, you know, coupling something like that, if that's your business, with a powerful back-end job costing, accounting, et cetera, is a really good solution. And there's a number of these types of solutions that we could show examples of, but there's a very appropriate place to do a solution stack like this.
Yeah, and one that comes to mind right away is the one that a lot of people are familiar with is Procore. It's a hugely popular construction management software because it's got really good interfaces. You know, you can look at projects, you can see if things are going good or bad. People can collaborate. It's got great workflow stuff in it. But we hear from people even there, even though Procore themselves are working on stronger back end stuff, we still hear people that say, hey man, I really like something in the back end. And you can see on the lower right of the screen, there's people in the past that use stuff like Microsoft Dynamics Great Plains or SL, which used to be called Solomon, Timberline, which turned into the Sage 300 CRE solution. I mean, Tim, we even had customers on AS400s that are in the back end, right?
We do. They, either something running like an older version of JD Edwards, or there's a number of solutions that were built on the AS400. We also get prospects that came to us and say, hey, we built our own back-end finance and accounting on something, an AS400 or whatever. Those platforms are still reliable. They run forever, but at some point they're antiquated. Or at some point, some of these examples of older ERPs are being retired by some of the software companies that used to publish these or support these.
Yeah, or finding the people to support them. I mean, there's how many people have invested in applications that were either construction specific, and then a couple of years later, they go out of business or get bought and they devalue that software or don't support it. So that's a huge part of it too. Is a company that's doing your software fully funded, and do they have a roadmap into the future? So another trend we're seeing is, like you said, an industry-leading cloud solution, but instead of talking to a separate solution, they're laying on some people call it a bolt-on, an add-on, a third-party solution that layers on that gives us the capabilities that they need. Most generic ERPs, enterprise resource planning packages, have the 6 pillars that you would expect. They got a sales, they got some supply chain, they got finance and accounting, they've got service management sometimes, and manufacturing, and so they've got and that's all integrated in a kind of a system. But they're not designed for a specific industry, and they're definitely not designed for construction. The concept of the way jobs are done, just concept of WIP. You mentioned retainage. They think it has something to do with water weight. It's just
progress billing.
Yeah, progress billing. It's not something that's part of that thing. But yet we're getting guys that use Salesforce out there and like it. They use this out there. So what we're going to talk about today is a mainstream ERP solution, and with an add-on like this, and what that looks like. So specifically Microsoft, because that's what we're going to show today. What a concept, the Microsoft construction solution. The idea is, if you're already using Outlook and Word and Excel and all that, and why not see what else is offered by the big boys there? So here's what it looks like. The idea is to kind of get everything into one. Your resources, whether it's the humans or the equipment or the materials, the financial management, the jobs, getting everything in one system, so that it's fully integrated within itself, rather than something over here that once a day talks to each other, or worst case, someone's typing stuff in both systems and they're truly siloed. And if you can see on the right, all those things have to lead to what's on the top of that, which is reporting. I mean, it doesn't do you any good to have data if you can't report it in an easy way to digest and quick. If it takes you 2 weeks to figure a report out, then it's the wrong solution. And Tim, we've seen a lot more people decide, like you said, even they were using JD Edwards, that kind of stuff, trying to figure out how much they could do inside of one box.
Right. So, again, back to a couple of slides ago, we talked about where it is appropriate to have, specialty types of software. So to be real clear, we're talking about as much as can be done, as much as is realistic in one solution in ERP. And we're going to try to lay out and show you what that is here in the next couple of slides, but with full acknowledgement that there are specialty systems that a modern ERP all-in-one solution should also be able to talk to, so that you have that real-time visibility into the information as well.
Perfect. So what we're talking about today is, if you haven't heard about Microsoft's ERP or business software products, they had 4 that they got through acquisition: Solomon, Great Plains, Navision, and Xapta. So they named the whole family Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics. And so Great Plains became Microsoft Dynamics GP, Solomon became Dynamics SL, Navision became Dynamics NAV, and Xapta became Dynamics AX. The reason I say that is Dynamics now, became the most used and still is the most used ERP on the planet, with 2 million users. So huge built-in core, but it wasn't a true cloud solution. It was, a server box over here and then already other client machines using over there. And so it was harder to upgrade, costly upgrade. Like I said, it wasn't really cloud-based. So it wasn't the way of the future. So, but as you can see here, it has all the component parts that you would need in any company, not just a construction company. The project management, the reporting, all that stuff, the pillars are in there. So it just made a ton of sense to say, well, this is great. If it's got the stuff, then can we build upon that? So that being said, we want to show you a short video about why this is taking the world by storm.
Digital technologies are transforming the world around us, impacting every industry and businesses of all sizes. Business no longer happens in one place, and customer expectations and engagement are changing. There has never been a better time to embrace technologies that change the way organizations manage their operations, connect with customers, and drive their business's growth.
Microsoft Dynamics 365 is a set of business applications that are fundamentally changing how organizations work. And we're very excited to introduce our newest addition to the portfolio, Dynamics 365 Business Central. It is designed specifically for organizations to bring in and integrate business processes faster, make decisions quicker, and connect with their customers real time.
Business Central is a complete service across the spectrum of business processes, from marketing, sales, service, operations, and finance. It's easy to approach and adopt, and yet it's full-featured and very deep and rich.
For our customers, they need to trust in a solution that their business depends on. Dynamics 365 Business Central is the next generation of Dynamics NAV for the age of digital transformation. With over 20 years of experience and hundreds of thousands of customers served worldwide and millions of users, this is a perfect platform.
Business Central is helping us getting more insights into all the processes in the company. It means being more efficient in the sales processes, being more efficient in the production, and always have an insight in our goods.
It works in my inbox, it integrates Office 365. I can immediately send a sales order on my phone when I'm out and about. And then if the customer comes back later, I can amend it and then raise a full sales order. And that's all automatically stuck into our financial systems. As a small business, it's just vital to be able to increase productivity and actually respond to queries on the go and know that you've got it all there.
We are in the middle of a fundamental refresh cycle for business applications, powered by the cloud, powered by data, powered by intelligence. You think about Office 365, Dynamics 365, the Power Platform, Azure. We've unified all of those assets through Dynamics 365 Business Central. It really is unique to Microsoft, and our partners are armed with, we believe, an unmatchable collection of technologies to go help their customers digitally transform. And Business Central is the foundation atop which these businesses can blossom.
Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central is a modern solution for modern businesses to meet their evolving needs today and in the future.
Mike, you got to unmute.
Oh, I see, just unmuted.
Yeah, it automatically muted us for the video.
There. So the point of showing you with that is that, yeah, if we were trying to show that ourselves, it would look silly, but this is the world that we live in now. People want real-time information. They want cloud-based applications. They want the ability to approve something on a mobile phone and have it integrate to Excel and Word, all that stuff. And so Dynamics Nav became Dynamics 365 Business Central, a cloud-based thing, a solution with all those parts in it, with all the fundamental parts that work really well. But the missing piece, of course, is the construction piece. So how do we do that? Let's see if this goes to the next slide or not. I'm going to see if it's in the deck or not. There we go. So just real quickly, what is the solution for people that might have missed it? But Business Central is built on Dynamics Nav, the most used system in the world. The pricing you can see there is very, very inexpensive. It's either it's a per user named user software that's either Essentials, which is core accounting, or premium if you have manufacturing and some advanced service management things. Also has a cheap $8 a month team member for approvals or limited read, that kind of stuff. But what's nice is it has automatic integration into Outlook and emails, meaning that when you get an email that asks about job number 123, it will automatically pull that up inside of Outlook, and you can look at that and see that without ever leaving the application. So that can make a huge deal. I mean, sometimes 30 or 40% of your day is switching applications. With that integration, it becomes extremely powerful. And then in addition to that, this is now an application where the different third-party stuff become like apps. Like think of Business Central like your smartphone, and the construction software or the different things are like apps that go on top of that, meaning they're meant to work with that system optimally, but you can't tell the difference when you're using it where one ends and one begins. And the last piece we'll talk about, we won't go into too much detail, is something called the Power Platform from Microsoft. You may have heard that out there. The first member of that family is something called Power BI, BI Business Intelligence. What it is, it's a data visualization tool that it plugs into different data sets. That instead of just an Excel graph that shows, you know, pie charts and that kind of a thing, you literally can do natural language queries. You could talk into a microphone and say, show me job profitability in California versus Arizona in June versus July. And it will build a graph on the fly for you in Power BI based on your data. And so instead of having to go to an IT department to create those reports, they can do it from there. And the next member of that family is something called Power Automate, which is workflow across different applications. Hey, when I'm in Salesforce and I get a new customer, it sends an email to accounting to set up to do a credit check on this guy, and then I do something here. That now exists. And then there's the last thing is Power Apps that lets you do a custom web application or mobile phone application yourself. You don't have to pay someone like Sikich. You can create, they call it low-code stuff, and anybody can create these type of applications. Maybe on a job site, you just have a guy receiving a truckload, and all he puts in is a truck ticket, and received or not. I mean, there's no end to what you can do to extend the solution that's inside of it. But this is
one of the best things about the Power Apps too, Mike, don't forget, is the ability to do offline data. So if you don't have that cell phone service, you know,
right.
the app can still function. You can still collect data or have a cache of the local data. And then when it detects this signal again, you know, your internet connection again, it'll do the synchronization for you. It's one of the most powerful things about that platform.
Yeah, that is huge. And we've shown people this application, and they say, well, that's too busy of a screen for my guy to use. Power Apps lets you put literally just a couple things on a mobile phone app and offline, and you can enter that data. So it's just, they're basically opening up the data and the platform from anyone to use, and just, you know, the possibilities are endless on that. So some of the advantages of that, it's a lot of detail, and this deck will be available to you. Some of the important things about being a cloud-based solution is that Microsoft's changing this product every month. And they're making 2 major releases a year, but they're making little tweaks every month. So the ability to take advantage of that, meaning the software is meant to be upgraded and new versions put on there, is massive. If you've ever used those old versions and you know what it costs to upgrade them, this is a big decision. And not only that, but it's the integration to Office 365 Excel. It's Microsoft, it's Microsoft. And they're always building one with the other in mind, and that's a huge piece of the pie. Tim, anything else down here jump out at you specifically that for this audience?
Well, following up on that same point about staying current, one of the most common things we hear from our clients that come to us that are looking for a new solution is, you know, we put in ideas for features that we need, or we see things on a roadmap, and we never see it come to fruition. There's just no updates. You know, maybe they'll change stuff with the look and feel, but no functional updates, we just don't see it. With this platform, Microsoft has made a huge investment, and they do come out with major updates twice a year. There's actually a community where people can put in ideas and vote on new features online, and Microsoft listens. They put that stuff in there, and they also you know, do things and seed functionality in the applications that we might not think about, stuff related to artificial intelligence and machine learning, to give people ideas about what could be possible by leveraging, you know, more of their platform. So yeah, it's a platform that you're just not ever really stuck on. You're never stuck in the past, and you wouldn't think so. You know, backed by someone like Microsoft.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that includes integrate. There's nothing there's nothing we can't integrate to now. You know, there's really nothing we can't talk to, and Didn't used to be the case, for sure. So now let's talk about the missing piece of the pie. There's a company called NetSmart that has a division that works on something called Project Pro. These are guys that come from construction industry, and they looked at the core at the time Microsoft Nav solution. That this is amazing. This has like 85% of what we need, but we need this next 15, 20% that is construction specific. We'll build that stuff out, layer one on top of the other, and we have a solution. And it's worked. So it's the missing piece. You know, the way you do quoting is completely different than regular ERP. You know, the way you manage a project and how there's teams and foremen and sub teams and stuff. And how do you track subcontracting? You know, like you said, are you tracking your compliance, insurance certs, doing lien releases, all that stuff? How do you do your billing? You know, is it AIA billings? Is it progress billings? What are you doing on that in terms? And then resources, how are you tracking that? How are you tracking your deals? You can see the stuff that's in there that has been added as a layer on top of it that close that gap. At the core of it all, as Tim alluded to earlier, was a job costing functionality that is different than core ERP. Without that, this wouldn't have been successful. When you say, Tim, and that became the core of how they changed things.
Right, and we pay a little bit of high-level bullet point words to this next functionality that I'll talk a little bit about. But for larger companies, contractors that have a lot of union jobs, union workers, or you work in areas where there's prevailing wage, the ability to track the labor cost of that on the jobs and the differences between, you know, a journeyman versus an apprentice, for example, and the cost of that labor, the markup of that for your profitability, to measure your profitability or your billings, that's all built into this as well. And that's not core Microsoft functionality, but it's something that the Project Pro folks said, this is important in our industry, and we're going to build it in.
Yeah, and Tim, if you want to talk to that slide as well, which kind of builds upon that, what functions in this do you see that really, really make a difference for someone that literally is driving the profitability organization on that?
Well, one of the key things from an upfront perspective, you know, we talked about that a lot of people do a lot of different things for how they build quotes, whether it's starting out in Excel or maybe using something like another CRM like Salesforce or whatever, all of which is fine. But one of the pieces of functionality that Project Pro builds is the ability to assemble all the different components of a job, you know, all the different labor components, all the different tasks, all the different material components to estimate them. I have, for example, you know, all my current cost of, I'll make something up, of drywall in my system because I'm a drywaller. So I know what my costs are. I've done the takeoffs to try to understand how much drywall I'm going to need to do in this, you know, big apartment complex that I've been contracted to build. Can I just take that, produce a quote, and then, oh, I got awarded the job. Now I'm going to turn that around and turn that right into the job with just a couple of clicks. Or for a general contractor, you know, maybe it's, oh, I need to sub out these 5 or 10 different trades, right? Okay, so here's what I think my costs are typically at, or maybe you actually go out to bid and you get all those subcontracts set up for a quote and then turning that into a job with just a couple of presses of a button, and boom, you've got the entire job laid out, all the stages of construction, all of the cost components, or maybe you need to tweak something, and then, you know, you're off and running. And then on an ongoing basis, you know, the actual tracking of completion of different tasks, the billing, the progress billing, if it's either milestone based or measurement based, being able to do things like track lien releases, either collect and track them, or maybe you're, you know, issuing them because you're a subcontractor or acting in the capacity of a subcontractor. And, you know, for the folks that do AIA billings, the ability to handle that is key. I mentioned subcontract management, and again, also the whole integration to a payroll system. So let's say you are measuring and making assumptions about what your labor costs are on a job. The ability to reconcile that back with your payroll system, maybe it's an ADP or something like that, to then say, okay, here's what we assumed our cost of labor was in the job. Here's what we've been tracking it. Now I'm going to reconcile it and say, here's what my real labor costs are on the job. And in real time, you know, on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, however often it is that you're paying your workers, you know, knowing exactly what your costs for that labor are, so you can measure profitability on that job in near real time as possible is all core out of the box functionality in this solution.
Yeah, and going back to your original point, all the data is in one place. And I know it's a cliche, but a single source of truth is hugely important in this world, is that you're not using 85 different spreadsheets where guys figure things out differently. It's a single source of truth so that everyone's looking at the same data and hopefully has the same conclusions, which will help your business decisions, and why we're all here is to increase profitability by making the right decisions on that. So what this looks like, if you kind of make this as a stack, and we always use this in the construction term, the foundation itself is Business Central. That's the guts of this stuff. That's the core pieces of the pie. It's got the integration of the general ledger chart of accounts to all the different component parts that you need in that interrelation that makes this all possible. And then the Project Pro layers on top of that using existing functionality. And so what Tim said, adds the different things you need for costing, estimating, tracking, budget to actual, in the way that the construction world needs it. Then on top of that, you have the ability to use the Microsoft 365 products. It used to be called Office 365. It's now called Microsoft 365. The Outlook, SharePoint, for those who don't know, it's like a way to store your documents and retrieve them up in the cloud. So that's really common, guys who use Microsoft Teams or different applications in Outlook. It's a place where you can store all your information automatically back up from your employees on their different laptops, or just a place where you can find things, all your CAD/CAM drawings and everything on SharePoint. And the last piece of the pie is that Power BI and the improved reporting capabilities and the Power Platform that we talked about. That if there's something that can't be answered specifically in all the bottom three layers, that top layer we can usually close the gap by getting a little creative and come up with something that meets someone's needs on that. And Tim, you're starting to see a lot of people that need this end-to-end play, from the productivity suite that we're all using every day to that? Are you starting to see a lot more people head this way?
Well, I think a lot of people's eyes are becoming open about what's possible, what something like this means for your organization and the effect it can have on productivity, from not just thinking of an ERP as, oh, that's something that people in the back end office accountants do, but the effect of how you can drive functionality from the back office out onto the job site, then leveraging the other Microsoft tools, the productivity tools, and then all the way into the data visualization. So you can see everything in the stack below it, in real time, how your business is doing. It's really opened people's eyes on what's possible today that as early as 5 years ago really wasn't possible. It's Microsoft and their partners that are building these solutions are really leveraging these cloud solutions and the technology that we have at our fingertips today to do something that's very, very powerful.
Yeah, and you see mobile apps here at the top. iOS and Android app it comes with it out of the box, Business Central. So everyone uses their smartphone. So why not capitalize on that and see if it helps you be more productive on the job site? That's a good point, Tim, on those. So then, this is a really busy screen. So I'm just going to go to a couple definitions. If you hear the term Azure on the bottom level there, that's Microsoft's description for their cloud ecosystem. It's the software, all the applications and everything. That's called Azure. So when you hear Azure Cloud, it's not Amazon, it's specifically Microsoft. And what it is, it's their data centers and the security and the way that things talk to it and the reliability and the backing up. It's all in the umbrella of Azure. And then on top of that is the tools that they have that when something's sitting in that world, how it connects to everything else out there, the different integration points. And Tim mentioned artificial intelligence. There's actually something right now available in Business Central that lets you see which of your customers are going to stiff you based on their trend. There's an AR functionality that says based on a person's AR stuff expanding and different things you set up, those are the guys you ought to focus on that probably aren't going to pay. That's out of the box now. And then the Power Platform lays on top of that, which is, because that's the connecting pieces that let you build out those things, almost like a e-commerce type of website. And then you get to the process productivity layer, what we're talking about, Dynamics 365 Business Central, and the Office applications like Outlook and Teams. Business Central has an integration to Teams now because everyone's using that. And the last layer are the apps that lay on top of that, and Project Flow fits into that. So we're not aware of anyone out there that has an end-to-end play like Microsoft, from a cloud perspective and security to the productivity play like emails and things like that, to the ERP core accounting, to the construction and all that. We're not aware of anyone that has that complete end-to-end out there, which is, like Tim said, why more people's eyes are getting opened up to this. It's a busy slide, and we'll digest it later. So what now? What do I do now? So there's, of course, a lot of factors. We know that there's probably people all over the map on this webinar. You know, budget, it comes up because, you know, when you're bidding on jobs, sometimes it's all about budget. It shouldn't be, but it's ROI, really. You know, what is it going to cost? Or what am I supposed to get back? But it's huge. You know, is this $1 million project or a $50,000 project? You know, timing. Are there impending things coming up that make you need to switch? You're going to get acquired, or you're getting the company set up to sell, and QuickBooks isn't going to cut it. You know, your business processes, what are they like now versus where do you want to be? Are you hiring a bunch of young guys that are using tools, or do you have people that are all over the place and they have to have a mobile platform? The gap fit, like Tim said, well, is we're not saying that this one-size-fits-all solution is going to work for everybody. So if it makes sense to have, like your BIM application was perfect, sitting over there and having to talk to that and find out what the remaining gaps are, it's huge. You know, what are the systems are we talking to? Tim mentioned payroll. You know, are you using ADP or Paychex or some specific solution there? Do you need that automatically brought into your accounting system? What are the different touch points on that? What are you using for reporting? Excel, Power BI, Tableau? You know, what are you using out there? Are you still want to be on premise? Or are you willing to adopt the cloud? And if so, is someone looking at your infrastructure and security to make sure you're safe? And what are your users going to do when you put on this new system? I'll tell you what, if you're using smartphones now, believe it or not, it's not going to be a big of a stretch. Everybody's like, oh God, they'll never use this thing. But once they get used to it, like a smartphone, they won't get rid of it. And the last piece is you got to think about data from your old system and what that means on this new system and bringing that forward. So this is not applicable for everybody, but we've been doing that for a lot of people about, hey, what could you come in, Sikich, and just talk to our guys and figure out do we have a solution that would work and what would that cost, quite honestly. You know, let's look at a baseline understanding where you're at, understand your processes, where you're headed, what your pain points are, what your infrastructure is now, how do your people work, and then marry that against the best solution for you. You know, actually, the solution you're using now, there's no replacing that. Let's put something over here. Let's work on the integration to that. What does that cost from the software perspective and implementation? And diagram this thing out in terms of what does this look like when you're done? You know, you're in the construction industry. You look at someone discussing something, but till you see it on paper and you look at it, you're like, I get it. And that's kind of what this is. But Tim, how would you expand on that in terms of how do we help a person try to, with all the data we've given them, figure out if there's a good match to what they're looking at?
You know, it starts with just taking a look at what you're doing today. You know, you can't understand where you need to go until we get realistic about, you know, what is in place today. And as we go through this process and we develop an understanding of the tools you're using, you know, we'll assess which ones, like you said, Mike, which of those tools are really key, really critical, that are modern or good, which of those ones are outdated or a risk in some way. The other thing we'll want to know about too is, you know, what are the back end plans for your company? And what I mean by that is, you know, is your company one where, you know, you're privately owned, you're privately financed, you're cash-based, you know, funding your company? Are you starting to look at more of, you know, loan draws, bank funded financing, doing loan draws and things like that? There's a different level of accounting and reporting that banks will require if you're moving into that direction than if you're, you know, purely financing it off of your own, you know, your own bank account, your own cash flow. Understanding things like that are important for putting together the roadmap of the types of financial controls, the types of systems and functionalities you should be looking at as well. The infrastructure one is all about, you know, are you ready to either continue to host this on-prem if that's what you want to do, or are you ready to move to the cloud? Where are your security risks? Do you have something there that is the next pipeline that's waiting to be hacked, ransomware? In every single one of our deployments for a new client, we do a security assessment evaluation and make proactive recommendations on the things that are fine or the things that are real risks that need to be addressed. And then it's up to you to make your own decision of what you want to do with that. But at least you won't be able to say, hey, Sikich, you never told me. The licensing piece of it, you know, we try to be transparent in everything we do. Licensing with these software companies is complex, and we try to make it simple, and we try our best to not make you overbuy or encourage you to overbuy. Software companies have a terrible return policy, which means there is none. You bought it, you own it. So part of what we want to do is make sure that we're right sizing the licensing for you, so that you're not overbuying and spending money that you don't need. With some of the subscription licensing, it's a little more straightforward because it's a pay-as-you-go consumption model. But that's just one component of the software licensing. Anything I left out, Mike, that you?
No, I think that's good, and I actually think we might be at the top of our time. I'll ask Mr. Ross if we're. Do we have? Is this an hour or just? I wasn't sure if this was the end of our time.
Yep. We're right at the end of time. So at 3 o'clock. So if you have any last minute or closing remarks you want to make, feel free to go ahead and.
Yeah, just real quickly. I think I've got. There's our email information, but obviously you can contact John and anyone at AGC who has our information. As he mentioned, he's going to send out the presentation and the recording of this thing. But Tim's right; we're very transparent. We'll tell you the works on this stuff. You know, we don't work for Microsoft. We can tell you the good and the bad and the ugly of this stuff. But we really want you to know what could work and what the potentials are. So John, if they have any questions, they can email either one of us or both, and we'll do our best to return those quickly.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for your time. Great presentation, very informative. Just as Mike said, you will receive a recording of the presentation as well as a PDF copy of the presentation deck within 3 to 5 business days. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks, John.